Hey guys, and welcome to Faithwerks Designs. I'm Faith, and today I am so excited to be showing you guys one of my latest patterns. I have been wanting to make a more realistic, more inspired Harry Potter bag for a really long time, and I finally had the time to make it. She's a little big, but this is the trunk of requirement. As you can see, she's a little more Harry Potter-esque in her shape and kind of the decoration. So we have several options with this bag for all kinds of things. So first, decoration. I went online and I was trying to look for an embroidery patch that I could kind of put on the front just to kind of give it a little pizzazz, but I couldn't find very big ones. So I put the call out on Facebook and just kind of putting it out there that if any of you guys had an embroidery machine and that you could do kind of customs for people, put yourself out there. And I got in contact with Christy from Heart to Heart Creation. I know you can't see that, but I just thought her sticker was so bright and cheery. And I told her that I wanted a Hogwarts kind of crest on the front of one of my bags. And so Christy put this on there for me, and it was quite the challenge, but she got it done for me, and it makes this bag look so good and so much more Harry Potter looking. So, you know, just go crazy with this. You know, you can do all kinds of designs, personalize it to yourself, you could put your name on there, you could do all kinds of things, right? Or you could do cut and sews. Now, we're going to talk about cut and sews in the outro because this intro is going to already be way too long, and that's fine. So make sure that you watch the outro. In the very back of your bag, you're going to have this little slip pocket, and that's what I call it in the pattern, is a slip pocket. So you're just going to be, it goes all the way through so that you can put this on the handle of your luggage case, or for my UK friends, their trolley. You can put it on there and then you can just kind of carry it around like that. Or there are D-ring connectors on both sides that you can actually connect a crossbody strap to, and that way you can carry it that way, or you can just carry it, depending upon how heavy of items you're carrying, you could carry it with the handle that's on the top. On the inside, I kept it pretty basic just because we're going to be doing and paying attention so much to the outside that I just wanted to keep it basic. So take the pattern and run with it like you guys normally do. You always get new patterns and you guys make them 100 times better than what they were. The inside has 2 slip pockets and then an adjustable elastic band that you can put your clothes in and then kind of snap it in place, and then you don't have to worry about your clothes falling out all over the place. So let's get started. Let's talk about hardware real quick before we get started. So you are going to need a ton of rivets. I got these from Whack. They are the 5/16, and they're just the right size. You're going to need 4 1-inch D-rings. You are going to need 2 number 5 zipper pulls and then zipper tape. That measurement will be in your pattern. And then you're going to need a buckle and elastic. Mine is 1 inch wide, and then the other measurements will be in your pattern. There are a lot of other options out there other than buckles. Future Faith will hopefully post some pictures of things that I found that you can use for the center buckle, but this is what I'm going to be using today. Alright, so let's discuss all of the pieces and kind of why they're labeled, what they're labeled. So we have the whole front panel. That's what we're going to be working on first. Well, after some D-rings. Alright, so we have got our front left side panel, our front left side strip, our front side strip, our front side strip, our center. Then we have 2 D-ring connectors that are going to go right there. Then you have another strip on your right side, right side, right side strip, and then your right side strip. So in the directions, hopefully it doesn't get confusing when I'm telling you to cut out the left and the right. That's just kind of what I mean on either side of your center panel. Okay, now first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab all of our D-ring connectors, and I've already marked the center line down the center. I got a piece of 3/4 inch by 3 inch piece of Decoville Light. I'm going to go ahead and put another piece of double-sided tape right here, and then we're going to do just like we always do, fold it into the center, and then sew down one side and then up the other. Alright, so you have a front and a back to your bag. These are going to be your side panels. So this one's going to go on one side of your front and the other side on the other side of your back. I hope these straight lines don't mess up anything in the camera. Okay, so if you're using a directional fabric, I just kind of wanted you to see that your zipper, let's pretend your zipper is right here. So they're going to meet up with the straight lines down the center, and then these rounded bits are going to be on the side of your bag. And so I chose to put the stripes going up and down. Then you have the bottom gusset. You're going to have an outer and a lining. Then you're going to have your side panel lining. Same thing if you're using a directional print, just making sure that they're going the right way. If they're kind of like going like this in your bag, so it'll be on the outside. I hope all that makes sense. Hopefully, Faith making the directions will make this make more sense to you. Then you have your slip pockets, your inner slip pocket. You're going to need to make 2 of those. They're going to be kind of lined, and they're going to go on the inside of your bag. I'm using waterproof canvas today just to make everything easier, but it's up to you what materials you guys want to use. Then you have your main lining. Your main lining is going to be kind of big, so just directionally, I used one of my linings with direction, and it was kind of mentally hard for me to keep up with. But if you want to do a directional print, just pay attention to when you're dropping it in, which direction the fabric is facing, and which directions your slip pocket's going into. So say you had a directional print and it was going this way, when you put your slip pocket in, you want to make sure that your slip pocket's open on this side and closed down at the bottom, if that makes any sense at all. You're going to have your back outer slip pocket. You're going to have one of your outer fabric and then one of your lining fabric. You're going to need your handle. You do not need to interface your handle. It's going to be 4 layers. I think it's going to be good enough. But if you want to interface it, go for it. But I think it'll be fine. Alright, so I have got all 6 of my D-ring connectors. What you're going to do is you're going to put some double-sided tape right down the center, and if you need to remark again, go ahead. Take your one side to the center line, just like that. And then take your other side and make them meet in the middle. Now we're going to do that for all 6, and then we're going to take it to the sewing machine and then kind of top stitch, base stitch down each side, keep those sides down. Alright, I have got all of my D-ring connectors all closed up. About 1/4 of an inch, we're just going to base stitch, top stitch down each side so that those sides stay down in the center. Alright, so your D-ring connector should look like that. You'll have the wrong, we're going to call the wrong side, and then you're going to have the right side with no seam down the middle. Remember, this is going to be the wrong side. Alright, go ahead and do that for all 6 D-rings. Alright, now that we have all of our D-rings ready to go, we're just going to do some prep work real quick. I'm going to grab the outer slip pocket, and I'm going to take the lining and the outer and put them right sides together. And then what you're going to do is you're going to sew across the top and the bottom of the longer width. So the width of your center panel, you're going to be sewing across the top and then again across the bottom. So let's go do that. Alright, so at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, we're just going to sew right across the top. I have a 3 stitch length. Alright, now that you have got the top and the bottom done, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to turn it inside out. And I'm very sorry if you're using vinyl and worried about it wrinkling. I've heard so many things online recently about vinyl and wrinkling and trying to get the vinyl out, and I'm trying to remember the really good one that I heard yesterday. I know sometimes you could probably take this, especially if you're using waterproof canvas, and you could kind of lightly take an iron over the back of this. Don't quote me on that. Some people have steamers, and they, from very far away, steam their vinyl so that it will lay flat and it won't have all of those wrinkles. I am probably gonna have to look into this because I'm working on a pattern right now and you have to turn it inside out and upside down a lot. So I really need to know how to do this. I really need to learn how to get these wrinkles out. So if you have any good suggestions in the comment section, please share them. I would love to hear them for the next pattern. Alright, what we're going to do is where you just sewed, we turn it inside out and you have your little seam here and then the seam on the bottom. We're just going to top stitch across those two. So I'm top stitching, so I am using a number 4 stitch length. There we go. Alright, so we have got our outer slip pockets sewn and ready to go. I went ahead and took my very back center panel and then I took my ruler and measured down 4.5 inches. So you should have 4.5 inches at the top and 5.5 inches down at the bottom. Remember, this is going to be folding over our bag because of the way our bag style is, so that'll be right at the top. Okay, next thing we're going to do, we're going to take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to base stitch down the sides just to keep the center pocket where it needs to be. Alright, so I've still got a 4 stitch length and I'm just 1/8 of an inch base stitching them together. Alright, now that the back panel is all finished, you can put your handle through here. We're going to set that aside. And then we're going to grab our very front panel. Let's go ahead and prep that too. What I did was I've got my little Beetlejuice embroidered little patch. And again, remember that about 4.5 inches of this isn't going to be seen. So, because it'll kind of bend over to the top. So if you're going to put any kind of tags, any kind of like decorative pieces or anything, you're going to want to at least measure down 4 inches. Or 4.5 inches, sorry. So I have got some double-sided tape on here. I'm just going to remove the paper if it will come off. And then I'm just going to center it as best I can. Take this to the sewing machine. I'm going to double check if it's centered or not. I'm going to take this to the sewing machine, sew around it, and then my front panel will be all ready. Alright, so that took a minute. Alright, so that's on. We're going to finish up preparing our front panel real quick. Alright, so what I've got is 2 of our D-ring connectors and our D-rings. I put 1/4 of an inch double-sided tape on each end of those. And then I'm going to take the paper off. I'm going to slide my D-ring on so that it looks like that. And then I'm going to press them together. The double-sided tape is just to hold them together. You could go to your sewing machine and base stitch that end closed. It's up to you. If you don't want to have to worry about your machine gooping up or whatever, but I'm just, after making a couple of these, I've just decided to goop it and it'll be fine. Alright, so once you have both of them like that, next thing you're going to do is get your front panel and a ruler, and you're going to measure 1/2 inch down. And you're going to place each of your D-ring connectors on each side, just like that. Now let's go to the sewing machine and base stitch those in place. With a 4 stitch length, we're just going to go 1/8 of an inch on the edge. And we're going to do that for both of our D-ring connectors. Alright, now that our front panel is all done, next thing that I did so that I can visually kind of figure out what's going on is I laid out all of my pieces. So I've got my left side piece, stripe, left side middle, stripe, left side stripe, center. And then the same on the right side. What we're going to do is we're going to take the left sides and put them right side together. Then we're going to take the right outer side and put those together. Now we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to sew at 1/4 of an inch seam allowance to sew those together. With a 3 stitch length and 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, we're going to sew these two together. Alright, now that those are sewn together, I want to top stitch down each side so that when we go to put our drop-in and it'll lay nice and flat. So I want to push these seams open and then top stitch down one side and then back up the other. You're going to do this with all of the pieces that we're connecting to the front and the back so that the drop-in will go a lot easier, trust me. I'm doing it from the back. If you're worried about what the front's going to look like, you could do it with the front up and then just kind of feel and press it down. It's up to you. Alright, we have our side panels all done. The next thing that we need to do is come on the left side, put the left sides together, and then clip them together. Now we're going to go onto the right and do the same thing. So the green is going to your center panel there, and we're going to clip those together. Alright, now we're going to go to the sewing machine and we're going to do the same exact thing that we did before. At 1/4 inch, we're going to sew these together, open up our seam like we did here, sew up and down each side of our seam. So let's go do that. Alright, so we have got our outer, our stripe, and our center. Now we're going to get our next stripe. We're going to put right sides together and we're going to clip those together. Now we're going to go on the right side and do the same thing, putting right sides together. Now that we've got them clipped together, the next thing that we're going to do is go with a 1/4 inch seam allowance and sew them together. And then just as we did on this side, we're going to open up the seam and sew up and down each side of our seam to make sure that they're laying flat. So let's go do that. Alright, so we've got it this far. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to take the left side, put it right side to right side with the front center, and clip them together. If you want to do one side at a time, go for it. I'm going to go ahead and do two sides. That way I can go ahead and get this front panel done, and I don't have to go back and forth to my sewing machine quite as much. Okay, so once these are all clipped together, go back to your sewing machine and at 1/4 inch, sew the pieces together. Alright, now that we've got those two sides attached, we're going to do this a little bit differently. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to put your seams right here facing out like that, so that we're going to be top stitching down our green vinyl. So you're going to need to push the D-ring, push that seam towards the outside, and then top stitch down the green. We're not going to be top stitching down the black. Alright, so as I top stitch, let's turn this to a 4-stitch length. And I'm going to make sure that my seam allowance is going that way. Alright, so we're going to talk about stabilizer for your bag. If you're using a domestic, you're probably going to want to use foam for your outer panel so that it'll kind of stay up on its own. If you're working on an industrial and it can handle a few layers, I would highly recommend Peltex. Okay, I went and grabbed testers. Okay, so this is the bag with Peltex, and it's pretty sturdy. Hopefully you can tell, like, it's not going to be like too smushed down. Wait until you see this one. So the foam will just get smushed right down. But if you're working on a domestic, this is a great option. It's just up to you. You're going to need 2 of these pieces cut out to your pattern size. We are going to add this to the back of our front and back panels before we add our rivets. So make sure that you wait for that place. Alright, so my front panel is all done, ready to go. We've sewn it all up. The next thing that I went and did was I got a piece of my Peltex. So those big sheets that we need to cut out, I got that. And then putting my wrong side of my panel to my Peltex, I went ahead and clipped it all the way around. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and I'm going to base stitch all the way around, just base stitching these 2 things together. Wow, this panel is getting really big and hard for you guys to see. Alright, let's go do that. So with a 4 stitch length and an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, I'm just going to go all the way around base stitching these 2 together. Alright, so I'm all base stitched. At this point, if you wanted to, you can kind of straighten it up, make sure that it's measuring what it's supposed to measure. I'm going to turn this way so it's a little bit easier for me. Now, if future Faith fails or forgets to do this, you should have on your template rivet where you're supposed to put your rivets. But if I fail to do that, or if my testers think it's better to do this, then that's what we're going to do. From the top edge of your bag, you're going to measure 4 inches down. Now we're going to need to make a lot of marks here. So we're going to make one on our strap on the right side, right in the center, just like that. You're going to do that on your straps. So the 2 that are on the right will get one in the center, and the 2 that are on the left will get one in the center. And that way you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4. From that dot that you just made, we're going to measure another 4 inches. And we're going to do the same exact thing. Right in the center, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to do another 4 inches. So you should have 3 placements on this one, this one, this one, and this one. Alright. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take a hole punch. And we're going to hole punch all of those. And I'm rethinking using this. Because this is kind of thick. Alright, let me get my hole punch. Alright, that hole punch might have done it, but just out of kicks and giggles, and I don't want to fight with it. I got my big gun out, and I am going to make my holes with my hole punch press. Just like that, and you're going to do that all the way down and on all 4 of your straps. You're going to take one of your rivets, and I like to put the stem in the back, and then you can place your cap just like that. You're going to do that for all 12 of the rivets on your front panel. So let's do that. Alright, so hopefully now you understand why I waited on the rivets until I got the Peltex on. The rivets are going to hold the Peltex and the vinyl together so that they're not kind of like warping on the front and kind of like getting loose and kind of pulling away from each other. But now the rivets will keep them nice and together. Okay, the next thing that we need to do is we need to do the back. Now we are going to construct the back the exact same way that we did the front. The only thing that you are not doing to the back is adding the D-ring connectors to the top. If you wanted to have 2 handles, you could add 2 more D-rings and do just like we did on the front. It is completely up to you. What I'm going to do is, because it's a million degrees outside, I am going to put this together just like we did with the front. And then I am just going to literally fast forward through all of it because it's basically the same thing. However, make sure that 4.5 inches is at the top and the 5.5 inches is at the bottom. It's just how the pattern is, and you got to do it. So I'm going to do real fast, put these two together, put those two together, go to the sewing machine. We're just going to plow right through this. Alright, real quick with the air on. I don't know if you noticed when I was top stitching on each side, we need the stitches to match in the front, but your slip pocket on your outer panel is not going to want to fold in, so it's going to have to be sewn down towards each side. So just FYI, you're not going to be able to fold it in so that they all look like this. It's just going to have to go out to the side. We have to top stitch that down one direction or the other. That way our front will look like the rest of our front. So just wanted to show you guys that. Alright, now getting the rest of the back panel finished. Alright, our back panel is all done now. What we're going to do is we're going to set this aside. We have got our left and right side panels for the very side of our bag. I went ahead and grabbed some Peltex and I put the Peltex and the vinyl together. I did interface these with Decoville Light, but I just wanted to make sure that the vinyl that I'm using is kind of stretchy a little bit, so I wanted to make sure that it wasn't moving around when I was trying to do stuff. So I've clipped the Peltex and the vinyl together. The next thing I'm going to do is go to the sewing machine and base stitch the Peltex and the vinyl together. While we're prepping things, the other thing that I did, I took the ends together and found the center of my back and the center of my bottom as well. And then I took the sides and made a little notch. So you need to have notches in both of your sides and your top and bottom. Do that for your front and back panels for later on, so that when we put everything together, we'll make sure that it's going in the right place. Okay, now let's go to the sewing machine and base stitch our side panels together. I've got a 4 stitch length, and we're just going to base stitch all the way around all 4 of these. Alright, so we are all base stitched together. The next thing that we're going to do, on the back we need to make our mark for our D-ring connector so that we can connect everything together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the one that I haven't done yet, and you're going to make sure if you're using a directional print that you need a top and you need a bottom. So I'm going to lay it down on my board like this. I'm going to measure down 1.5 inches. I'm going to check and make sure you can see. And then I'm going to put my ruler so that there's 1/4 inch on this side, there's 1/4 inch on that side, so that I can find the center. That's what I'm looking for. This is 3.5 wide, so you're going to need to put it 1/4 inch over and then find the, you guys get it. And there could possibly be a piece on the pattern piece to help you guys out. But just in case I forget, that's how you're going to find it. Okay, the next thing that we need to do is make sure that you've got 2 of your sides doing the same exact thing. It should look like that when it's finished. The next thing that we're going to do is get an X-Acto knife, and we are cutting just where we mark. We're not going past it, we're going right through. And you need to make sure that you get through your Peltex and your vinyl. You may have to do it more than once, but you need to open that up just like this. Do that to all 4. Once that's done, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our remaining D-ring connectors, and we're going to look on the front. And you remember how I said that's the wrong side with the slit that we folded our sides into? With the wrong side up, you're going to insert your D-ring connector through the hole that we just made. And you're going to want 1 inch on the back, like that. We're going to do this for all of them, making sure that the wrong side is facing up. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to the sewing machine. And when we get there, what we're going to do is make sure, double check and make sure that we've got 1 inch coming out of the back. What you're going to need to do is you're going to sew on the D-ring connector. You're not going to go past it. You're not going to start over here. You're going to start on the D-ring, come down and stop before you get past that D-ring, so that your stitches are not going to show when we push this down onto the inside. Alright, so let's go to the sewing machine and do that. Alright, so I have a 3 stitch length. I'm going to recheck all of these before I sew them. And I'm hoping that you can see what I'm doing. So I'm starting right on that D-ring connector. And I'm sewing above where that slit is. So let me pull these threads through and then I can show you what they're going to look like. So it's going to look like that. You're just sewing right on top of that D-ring, and you can still have your opening for your D-ring connector to go back down into. Alright, so I need to do the rest of these, and I'm going to turn the air on. Alright, all of our D-ring connectors are connected to our side panels. The next thing that we need to do is we need to take one of our D-rings and slide it onto our D-ring connector just like that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this end of our connector and put it back through the little slice that we made. Alright, so I'm going to pull mine all the way down, and it should almost meet that 1 inch. If I had measured, it probably would have. You know me, I'm just kind of like, let's do it. Alright, so next thing you're going to do is 1/4 of an inch down from this edge right here. We're going to make a center mark. So right there, I'm going to make a hole for my rivet. I finally got it. Okay, that's a lot of layers. Give that cam snap press some welly that when you go to make your hole. Alright, and then you're just going to put the cap on the top, just like this. Do this for all 4 of your D-ring connectors. Now, we've got all of our connectors connected. The next thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to put the bottom ends together and find the center of each connector on each side of the connector. This is going to help us put our side pieces onto our front and back panels. So let me go grab those and we'll put those together. Alright, now that we've got our D-ring connectors together, we've already got our center marked. We're going to grab one set, and then we're going to grab our back panel. What we're going to do, so you need to lay them out so that it looks like this. Can you see that? Okay, there we go. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to match up our center notches, and we're going to put them right sides together. So I'm just going to do a couple of clips on each side. Then we're going to take this edge right here, and we're going to meet it up with this edge right here. You are also going to need to make some clips in your body, in your back panel, so that it'll lay like it's supposed to. Once you've got those snips in, you can go ahead and finish clipping them together like so. Now we're going to go to this end. Okay, so your one side should look like this. Now I'm going to do the same thing on that side. I failed to mention that when you're doing this, make sure that your D-ring connectors are towards the top of your bag. So that should be the 4.5 inches space right here, so that you know this is the top, and your D-ring connectors should be at the top. Now, we're going to take this to the sewing machine. With 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, we're going to sew these together. Alright, so whichever way is going to be easiest for you to sew these together, then you need to do it. So I'm going to sew like this, and I have lost a lot of clips trying to get away from me. Alright, 1/4 of an inch. We're going to sew all the way around. Well, all the way around. We're going to sew these two pieces together. Alright, our back is finished. Now we need to move on to our front. So the front is going to be the same thing. You're going to have the rounded sides facing your panel. I've already made some snips in mine so that it'll round out when I want it to. So you're going to put right sides together and then just clip, 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 clip like crazy. I decided it was better to clip like crazy than just a few clips because they kept flying all over the place. So the more clips you use, the better off it'll stay in place. Just in general, take it from me. They were flying. So just do that to both sides. Alright, we've got our front and our back, and I went ahead and turned it right side out because I don't want the bags to be sitting like this because the vinyl is going to wrinkle real bad. So I'm going to sit it out like this and let it sit for a little while. And now I'm going to go grab the zipper and the zipper gusset, and we'll do that next. Alright, now that we've got the front and back done, let's go ahead and start working on the zipper gusset. So you're going to grab your zipper gusset pieces, and the first thing you're going to need to do is fold this in half and find the center notch. Go down to the other end and do the same thing. Find the center notch in both your outer panel and your lining panel. Then we're going to grab our zipper tape, and if you're using nylon, you're going to make sure that you melt the ends real quick to make sure that they're not going to come unraveled. Then we're going to grab one of our zippers. I would highly recommend having 2 zippers on this one just because of the way that it opens and how large the opening is. So we're going to put our left side on first, then our right side, just like so, and make sure that it's even on that end. Pull that down so it's on there. Come down to the opposite end, grab your other zipper. Same thing, left side first, then your right side, and on we go. So it should look like this. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to grab your outer bottom gusset, and we're going to match up that notch in the center with our zipper teeth. So the notch is going to go right there, and we're going to clip it on the end. Just like that. So it should look like that. There are reasons that your bottom zipper gusset is bigger on this one, and I will tell you when we get to that part. Okay. Next thing you do is grab your lining fabric, and again you're going to put that center notch on the wrong side. So you've got the right side of your lining to the wrong side of your zipper, and we're going to add those together, and I'm going to straighten that up when I get to the sewing machine. But it should look like that and in the center. Let's go to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew those together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Alright, just for visual aid reference wise, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my zipper with the right side to the right side of my outer. I know I showed you how to clip it together, but I'm just going to show you that I'm going to base stitch it together so that it will stay there. Okay, just in case you're having a hard time seeing what I was doing, I wanted to go ahead and base stitch it together so you can kind of see that the teeth are right in the middle of that, like that together. Okay, now grab the lining and do the same exact thing, but we're going to actually sew it this time. So making sure that your center notch is right there on the center of your teeth, and then sew that together. Now comes the kind of tricky part. So we're going to need to grab the other end of our zipper, making sure that none of this mess gets tangled up. And then again, put it right in the center where your center notch is. Your zipper teeth need to be right where that center notch is. Let's base stitch that in place. Take your lining, just like that, and put your lining right side to the wrong side of your zipper. Alright, so your zipper gusset situation should look like this. Now we're going to turn it right side out, and before we do any top stitching or anything like that, we're going to need to make sure that our zipper is straight. So just make sure that it didn't get twisted or turned or anything like that. And then I'm going to grab a couple of clips on each side of my bottom gusset. I'm just going to kind of clip that together so that it will stay together. Then what we're going to do is we're going to base stitch around that whole bottom gusset so that it'll become one piece and a whole lot easier to work with. So I'm going to start in the middle. I'm going to turn my stitch length up to a 4. And then 1/8 of an inch, I'm just going all the way around. Alright, We've got it all base stitched up. Next thing I did was I folded it in half and found the centers on both sides of my bottom gusset. Now what we need to do is you need to hold it out. I don't even think, can you see all of that? Okay, hold it out. We're going to find the center over here. So we're going to have our back center in our bottom gusset and then our front center in our zipper. And then we're going to melt that zipper tape so we don't have to worry about that coming unraveled. Next thing that you're going to do, put your front and back zipper together. And I'm just going to clip it just like that. Now we're going to look for the right center. And then again, burn those so we don't have to worry about those unraveling. Now we're going to go to the left center. Alright, so our zipper gusset is all prepped and ready to go. We're going to set this aside and we're going to start working on our lining. I've got my lining inner slip pocket. I've got both my pieces. What I'm going to do is put them right side together. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sew across the top and the bottom. We're not going to be doing the sides. Alright, so just go to your sewing machine and at 1/4 inch we're going to sew on the bottom and then across the top. Alright, so 1/4 inch, we're just going to sew across the top and the bottom. Alright, so we have got the top and the bottom sewn. What we're going to do is we're going to reach in and we're going to turn this right side out. Alright, so what I did was I went ahead and I kind of rolled my edges out and then clipped it so that it'll lay flat. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to sew onto the left side, this edge right here. We're going to base stitch down the side, across the top, and then back down the right side. Don't sew across the bottom. That's going to get sewn later on when we put it onto our lining. So let's go do that. I've got a 4 stitch length and I'm just going at 1/8 inch down the left side, across the top, and down the right side. Alright, so we're all ready to go. Now I'm going to grab my lining panel. And then down the shorter end, we're going to fold this in half. And then you need to make a notch. You need to do that on both sides. Then what you're going to do is with the unsewn part, so this is going to be your top, this is going to be your bottom. We're going to clip those two together. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to start sewing over here on the right, come down, across, and then back up the left side just to base stitch our slip pocket in place. Alright, now that you've got that done, the next thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to find the center. And then with a marking tool, you can mark just on that slip pocket, but this is really light green and for some reason it shows off my marking tool really bad. Do me a favor and give me your marking tool suggestions. What is your favorite marking tool? Because this green just like does not work with me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this in half and then I'm just going to press it, and then when I get to the sewing machine I'm just going to sew down where I pressed. You see how it left me a nice little crease? I'm just going to sew there. So let's go to the sewing machine and sew our center of our slip pocket. Alright, so we're going to start right at the top, and you're going to go down a few stitches because you guys know that slip pockets get pulled on a lot, so I just want to make sure that that doesn't come unsewn. Alright, and then just sew all the way down. Alright, now that that slip pocket is in place, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab our 2 lining side panels and we're going to line up that center mark that we made, and we're going to do just like we did on the outside. You're going to clip like crazy, and then you're going to make sure that you make some little snips where it goes around the roundy bits so that it'll lay like it's supposed to. Alright, let's go sew those together. You're going to be sewing your D-ring side panels to your panel on both sides with a 3/8 seam allowance. Alright, now we're on to the second side of our lining. This side, you could kind of do whatever you wanted with it. If you wanted to add a zipper pocket, if you wanted to add another slip pocket, you can just kind of make it your own. I wanted to keep this side simple because this is kind of the side that your clothes are going to be on, because we have the little buckle that's going to kind of keep your clothes in place. It's up to you. Mesh, netting, you could do all kinds of stuff. But I wanted to keep it simple because I like these to be cut and sews. And the more pattern pieces you add, the more expensive they are. So we're keeping that in mind. Alright, so we're going to grab our side panels. We're going to do exactly like we just did on the other side. We're going to put right sides together of our panels. We're going to clip them together. Make sure that you snip around the roundy bits. And then, yeah, we're going to sew that together. Again, you're going to want to go ahead and sew these together with a 3/8 seam allowance. Alright, so we've got this side of our lining all done. Let's set that aside for a second. We're going to grab our buckle and our elastic. And what I did was I put my elastic through one end of my buckle and then through the end of the other. We're going to keep these together for right now. So it should look like this. Then we're going to grab our lining, and you're going to want to measure 1 inch from this seam and place your buckle. We're just going to clip it in place. And you betcha that I'm guessing here. Alright, then we're going to take this other end with it up like this. So the elastic will be coming from your lining into your buckle, and then instead of going like this and twisting it, you're going to have it up like that. I'm hoping that is going to make sense. And then we're going to clip that on that side about 1 inch from the seam. So it should look like that. Or if you like that. Okay, now on the other side, we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to measure in 1 inch. So it should be just like that. The elastic is going into the buckle. And then when it comes out, you want to turn it upright. Yes. Instead of this one going over and into the buckle, you're going to fold it over like that. Okay, I'm going to set it here for a second so you guys can percolate over that. But on one side, when they come together, they're just going to be kind of, one is going in one direction and one is going the other. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this to the sewing machine and we're going to base stitch that elastic in place. Alright, now that that is done, we're going to grab some 1/4 inch double-sided tape. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way around the top whenever I actually find the thing. There we go. I'm going to go all the way around the top edge of my lining. If you're using cotton, you could go and iron this in place, and that way it'll stay where it's supposed to. I'm using waterproof canvas right now. It's going to make my life so much easier because this stuff does what you tell it to do. Alright, when you get to your corner, open your corner up, just like that, and put your double-sided tape over it, just like that. We're going to do that on the outer panel and the lining panel. So every corner, you're going to need to open that up. Take this and set it aside. Grab your other lining real quick. Do the same exact thing to this lining. Alright, now we're going to grab our bottom gusset and our zipper gusset. And what we're going to do is we're going to grab a little ruler and a marking tool. Or you can grab your ruler from Sew Seams Awesome And you can, I'm putting my finger up there so you guys can kind of see where 5/8 is. We're going to need to know where that's at. I know, I'm ignoring you. I'm very sorry. I am trying to record a video, if you don't mind, ma'am. Okay. What you're going to do is you're going to find 5/8 on both sides of your bottom gusset, and then we need to mark them so we can find 5/8. Y'all, I used to be so funny about the dog and kids and everybody coming up into my sewing room, and I just gotten older. I'm just like, oh, you want to come see me? Okay, cool. Come on up. Alright, 5/8 on this side. Alright, now, when you know where the 5/8 is, you're going to take your 1/4 inch double-sided tape, and we're going to put that above that 5/8 line. Right like that. What are you doing? What are you doing, ma'am? Love you. And then again, putting it above that 5/8 mark that we just made. So it should look like that, and I know with black and white stripes that probably wasn't thought out too well. Sorry about that. Alright, once you have both sides marked, the next thing that you're going to do is you're going to grab our back panel. And the way that we're going to make sure that the bottom gusset is going to the bottom of the back panel is you need to look, and if you need to, you can measure, but I can look at this and tell this is the 4.5, this is the 5.5. The 5.5 is going to be my bottom. So I'm going to turn that over, and remember we made a center mark in this panel. Once you take that paper off, we're going to turn this around, and right where that 5/8 line is, we're going to put the edge of our back panel. So we're going to find the 5/8 line. So we're going to find the center of the bottom gusset and the center of your back panel, and making sure that those line up. We're putting the panel along that 5/8 mark that we made, and we're pushing those two together, just like that. Okay. This is going to make sense later on. I just have a really hard time with drop-ins, and this is really, really going to help out. Okay, next thing you're going to do is flip this over, and we're going to make sure that the zipper tape is right side to the outside of your back panel. So I'm going to start matching up my center notch in the front, and I'm going to clip those two together. Then I'm going to go to the side, and I'm going to match up the side notches. And then I'm going to go to this side and line up the side notches. Make sure that your zipper is facing right side to the right side of your back panel. And I know this is getting really big, and it might be hard to see. So it should look like this all the way around. Now, what you're going to need to do is clip all the way around. When you're clipping this all together and you get to one of the corners, you're going to want to open that corner up so it'll lay flat when we turn it over. So put a clip right there in the center and use as many clips as you need to, because yeah, it's a really big piece to have to work with. So just use as many clips as you need. Okay. I'm going to fast forward clipping this together, then we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and we are going to sew our zipper to our back panel. Alright, I've got you backed up a little bit. I'm hoping you can see what I'm doing. Alright, with a 3-stitch length, I'm going to be sewing this together. I'm going to be sewing the zipper on to the panel at 1/4 inch. Normally you would base it on and you'd be fine, but we need to go ahead because it's a drop-in and sew it at 1/4 inch. Now, if you want your drop-in to look right, you got to make sure that you have the same seam allowance all the way around. Alright, now that we've got our zipper sewn into place, the next thing that we're going to do is going to sound a little wonky, but we can do it. We're going to grab 1/2 inch double-sided tape. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to double-sided tape the seam allowance in so it kind of lays flat like that, and then I'm going to hand sew that down. I struggle with drop-ins, I just do, and I think from my testers everything turned out a lot better when I kind of hand sew, because the double-sided tape can only do but so much. You know what I mean? It's only got so much strength. So I'm going to hand sew that down, and I'll show you guys how to do that. But let's get the double-sided tape down first. Alright, so I put my double-sided tape right underneath that 1/4 inch line that we just sewed our zipper onto. I don't know if you could see that or not, but there's our basting stitches, there's our 1/4 inch that we just sewed, and then I put the 1/2 inch tape there. We're going to take the tape off and then fold everything in on itself. With this being this Peltex, it may not stick to it very well. That's why I wanted to do the hand stitch sewing, just to make sure that it wasn't going to go anywhere. So now remove that paper and go around and start pressing that 1/4 inch tape in. For some reason, when I get to the back gusset, when I'm doing a drop-in, it never wants to land where it's supposed to. So that's why I made the back gusset bigger, so that you have a little bit of wiggle room when we're going to sew the lining in. All will be revealed, I promise. So just go around and push that in. Alright, now that that's done, the double-sided tape has kind of helped it fold over. Now you can kind of see that it doesn't want to all lay down, like all of your layers. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a thread and needle, and I'm just going to kind of whip stitch all the way around. I will bring you guys down here so that you can actually see what I'm doing, and then we're just going to whip stitch this down so that it'll stand. The seams will push down and the zipper will go up, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So let me go grab my thread and my needle, and we will get this done. Alright, now I've got my needle and thread, I've got my knot on the end. What I'm going to do is I am going through the Peltex right underneath. You see where the double-sided tape is? I know it's going to be hard to see. That 1/2 inch right there. I'm going right up through it, in and out. Do not go through your outer fabric. We're just going through the Peltex. Then I'm going to go through my seam allowance. Right on the bottom there. You don't have to grab up but so much. And again, I'm left-handed, so I'm probably going to be going in the opposite direction of you. So what I'm going to be essentially doing is pulling this down so that my seam allowance stays down and my zipper will stand up. Okay, I'm going to come over here just a little ways, go in and out of my Peltex, and then back through my seam allowance. There we go. I can already see a difference. Alright. Go over here a little bit, in and out, through my seam allowance. And then just kind of do a few stitches and then pull. Again, this is just optional. You don't have to do this. It's just, with my testers, because I struggle with drop-ins, my testers looked so much better when I took this extra step and did this. Alright. So I don't know if you can tell a difference, but just where I've whip stitched, it's a lot flatter. See how the zipper is kind of like bowing out over here, but it's nice and flat right here? That's what we want, because that'll help our lining go in a whole lot easier. Alright. I'm going to go all the way around and whip stitch this thing, whip stitch my seam allowance down, and I'm going to try and make sure that you can see what I'm doing. Oh my goodness, I need another monitor so that I can see what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to fast forward through this because I think you got the gist, and if you don't, just kind of watch that portion over again. But I'm going to fast forward through this so you guys will only have to sit with me for like a minute. Alright. So we have got the back panel all situated, ready to go. I've got everything sewn down so that the seam allowance is pushed down and it won't be sticking up, and my zipper is going to be laying awesome. Okay, put this aside for a second. We're going to grab your lining that looks like this and has your buckles. We're going to take off the double-sided tape paper and then just turn this under 1/4 inch. And this is another reason why I like using waterproof canvas, because it just does what I tell it to do, and it's really easy. So go all the way around, pushing it down 1/4 inch. Alright, once that's done, let's grab our back panel again. Okay, so this is going to go inside of here like this. At this point, it doesn't matter which side is facing what, but it's going to go in there. So, let's grab some 1/2 inch double-sided tape, and I'm going to put it behind the seam allowance, or underneath the seam allowance, I should say. So you see, there's my seam allowance, my 1/4 inch that we sewed the zipper on with. I'm going to put that 1/2 inch double-sided tape right underneath of that. Alright, the double-sided tape is on. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the paper. We're going to grab our lining, and then what I'm going to do is start matching up the corners. So I've got my corner right here. I'm going to match up this corner right here and push those together. And then you can also find your center mark on your lining and your center mark on your outer panel. Match those up and push them together. I'm going to go to the center mark on my lining and the center mark on my back panel. And then just go all the way around, joining the panels together. I'm going to have to straighten this up a little bit more, and then we're going to go to the sewing machine. Just make sure that your lining is going right where that 1/4 inch seam allowance is. Try and get it right up against it so that you don't see the seam allowance, but that it's right up on it. So that when we go to top stitch it, both the outer and the lining will be edge to edge, fold to fold, like that. Alright, let me straighten this up and then we'll head to the sewing machine. Alright, if you've done your job right, when you put your hands along the seams, you should feel them together. There shouldn't be like one a little bit way over the other or vice versa. They need to be on top of each other, and you can kind of feel it with your hands. I have got 4 stitch length, and then I'm just going to go 1/8 of an inch all the way around to attach the lining to the outer panel. You can turn this in right side in, lining side out to top stitch if you want to make sure that your outer panel is, so that you make sure that you're top stitching the outer panel to make your outer panel look nice. But I've gone around with my fingers like a million times, and my panels are right on top of each other, so my top stitching should be, hopefully. Oh, also, If you have a key fob, you might want to go around all of the corners. So right where your seams meet, right here, you might want to take your key fob and just kind of squish those materials together so they're a little easier to get through your machine, just depending upon what materials you're using. If you're using vinyl, it'd be a good idea to do that just to make it a little bit easier. When you're sewing, you're going to want to pull this out. You're not going to want to top stitch it like that. You're going to want to pull this out. Alright, so we've got that all top stitched, and if you did it right, your top stitching should look just a matter of making sure that your lining and your outer panel are both in the same position. Okay, another reason why I don't like drop it, but it's okay. It's okay. We're doing it. Alright, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab our front panel. Now, you're going to have to look at your panels, and we're going to have the top, and then we're going to have the bottom. The bottom we need to put with the bottom of our zipper gusset. Y'all, words are hard today. Okay. Alright, here we go. I'm going to open up my zipper all the way. And then this is going to be really hard for you guys to see, but it's fine. Basically what we're doing is exactly what we did on the other side. This zipper tape, we're going to make sure that our zipper is right side to the outside of our top or our front of our trunk. So I'm going to clip this in place just like that. Just to kind of get it there so I don't have to worry about it. And then you can get them on the sides, and then I guess we'll take care of the bottom. It's so big and so hard to show you guys at the same time, if that makes any sense. It's just, there's just a lot. Okay, now we've got our sides and our front clipped together with our zipper. We're going to have to do the same thing that we did to the other side when we have our 1/4 inch seam allowance right there, or 1/4 inch double-sided tape. We're going to take the paper off, and then our panel, our front panel, needs to hit that 5/8 inch line that we drew. So let's line up the centers. I found the center of my front bottom panel and the center of my bottom gusset. And then they should line up just like that. The bottom of your front panel is going all the way along that 5/8 inch that we made, and is being attached by that 1/4 inch double-sided tape. Okay, now you need to clip all the way around, clipping them together. Don't forget in the corners to open those up. Alright, I don't know if you can actually see anything or saw anything that I was doing. But basically, we're just attaching the zipper just like we did to the other side so that we can attach these two together. And I realize this thing is huge and it's going to get even harder to see, and I can't get you guys any higher. So we're gonna do the best we can, you guys. Alright, we're going to go now and we're going to sew the zipper onto our onto our front panel, and we're going to sew it at 1/4 inch just like we did on the back panel. Alright y'all, this one's going to be difficult. Alright, so I've got the back panel back there, and I know that you can't really see what's going on. Hold on. So this is my sewing machine and where I'm at. So I have got the back panel right here, and then I've got the front panel. They're kind of right side to right side of each other. Then I've got, sorry if I jolted you too much, I've got this next to my presser foot. I'm going to sew my zipper on just like that. I know it's really hard to see because it's just so huge, But let's do that now. Alright, hopefully you can see. So let me get a 3 stitch length. And then remember, we're using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Everything's attached. We're going to do double-sided tape again so that we can go ahead and push the seam allowance down. This time I'm going to use a 1/4 inch double-sided tape. The 1/2 inch double-sided tape made my needle super sticky while I was trying to sew through it, so I think we'll stick with 1/2 inch. I don't think it's, or 1/4 inch, sorry. I don't think it's going to do any good, but we'll go for it. It's fine. Okay, so once we do the 1/4 inch all the way around, I am actually doing it right underneath where we just sewed this together. Once I do that, I'm going to take the paper off, and then I'm going to push that seam allowance down. Now, I'm going to do just like I did with the other side, and I'm going to sew down just a quick whip stitch to get that seam allowance to just stay down and out of the way. And then we'll add the other lining soon. Alright, so I have got all of my seam allowances sewed down so that everything's staying like it's supposed to. Alright, next thing's next. We're going to grab our last lining piece. And what you're going to do is take the paper off just like you did last time, and then fold it under a 1/4 inch. Now we're going to grab our 1/2 inch double-sided tape again, and we're going to put it right underneath our 1/4 inch seam allowance so that we can make sure that both of these edges are together. Now that we've got that on there, remove the paper and then go ahead and our lining. Let's talk about that before we remove the paper. So this is the top of your bag. You've got your handle here, right? Can you guys see that? Let's see. Maybe. Alright, so here's your handle right here. This is going to be the top of your bag. Let's just keep that in mind. You're going to grab your lining, and when you put it in, you're going to need to make sure that your slip pockets are opening this way. So you're inserting your lining so that it's facing the top of your bag, is facing your slip pockets, and that way when you open your bag, it's on the top. If that makes any sense whatsoever. Okay. Let me take this paper off, and then I'm going to do just like I did before. Whoops. I'm going to start in the corners, and then you can match up all of your points. If my double-sided tape will stick. Alright, so not going to lie, this was not easy. So what you're going to have to do is this side, you're going to have to kind of roll it into the throat of your machine so that you can actually get in there and do what you need to do. What we're going to have to do is I've decided to start on the inside bottom gusset so that I can go ahead and get the hard part out of the way. Once that's done, all of this will be out of the throat of my machine, and then it'll be a whole lot easier to sew. Alright, let me get you on the stand. I just wanted you guys to see what was going on because it's huge. Alright, so I have got a 4-stitch length. I've also got, let's see, what else? I'm just going an 1/8 inch from the edge, and just take your time. Hold on to your thread when you get started so that you can pull that thread through to the lining, and then just start sewing all the way around. Zipper, that's what I was going to say. Watch out for your zippers when you start and stop at your bottom gusset, because they're going to get in the way and you don't want to accidentally hit your zipper. Alright, hopefully you can see how it's shaping up. What I'm going to have to do is, if you guys have ever seen any of my videos where I take the pieces of one-sided interfacing or Peltex and I kind of put them on the corners with those clips, those big gigantic clips, and it kind of makes the bag form like it's supposed to, I'm going to have to do that on both the top and the bottom of the sides, and then I think it'll stay exactly the way I want it to. Okay, woo, we're almost done. Love how this is looking. Now we need to grab the handles. Alright, so you've got your handle. I put a line down the center, and then I put ½ inch double-sided tape down that center, and I'm just going to push these edges together. This is super easy, guys. Super easy. Push the ends in together and then push those together. Then we're just going to take this to the sewing machine and then sew all the way around it. Alright, so now we're just going to start anywhere on our strap or on a handle. I'm not going to start on the edge. I'm going to make this a continuous stitch. So I'm just going to start a little bit ahead. There you go. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. So I've got a 4-stitch length. Right, so we're all sewn up all the way down. The next thing that I did was at a 1/4 inch from the edge, I put one of my rivet holes. Then I took my ruler and I measured in 2 inches from that rivet hole, 2 inches over, and put my next rivet hole. I did that on both ends. Now we'll grab our bag, and I also grabbed some extra long rivets just because it's going to be kind of thick. So we're going to put, okay, so we're going to put one end in that way, like that, and then close it up. We're going to grab our rivet, put it through the bottom, then put it through the top, and add our cap. We're going to go through the other side the same way, so this tail is going to go through this D-ring, like so. What you can't see is I'm putting my rivet in through the bottom one, and then through the top, and put my cap. And then you need to just squash those, and you're good to go. Alright, you're all done. Alright guys, so what did you think? I hope you like this pattern. Hopefully it's easy enough and quick enough that you guys can kind of pop these out. I do realize that they are huge. So make sure that you guys are charging enough for these. I know it's kind of hard for pricing. I would say $100 for one of these. It just depends on your customer base and what they're willing to pay. So just keep that in mind. About the embroidery, make sure that you message Christy. I'll put all of her details down below so that you guys can get a hold of her. If you wanted to get embroidery done, make sure that you contact Christy. She was very fast, and kind of we went back and forth, and she sent me videos of how things were going and what they would look like so that I could make sure that everything was right before she shipped it all the way out to me. So she was really fun to work with, and I'm really glad that I picked her to be able to do the embroidery for me. Now, cut and sews. We got to talk real quick. So originally I was supposed to be doing this bag with a cut and sew with Luxe Custom Fabrics, but quite a few things happened. One is their baby came 6 weeks early, so they have been scrambling to try and catch up with where they were before. And then some stuff happened with So Magical Expo. If you don't know about that, it has been all over the internet. So they've lost out money on that, and so it just kind of wasn't a right time for it. But I do plan on working with a few more fabric designers and see if we can get this as a cut and sew. If you know a fabric designer and you're like, can you please contact Faith and let's do some cut and sews for these, I'm more than happy to work with anybody to get these done. But for right now, we're just going to have to kind of make them their own, and that's kind of what I've been wanting to do with my patterns from here on out, is make them so that you guys can kind of make them your own. If you saw the bucket bag, that way you can take your Cricut or, you know, by hand and kind of be creative. I had tons of people in my group take those things and kind of run with them and make them their own. And that's kind of what I want to do here. I know finances have been kind of tight, and so buying specialized stuff is a lot more expensive, and you may or you may not get your money back for it. But if we can customize them ourselves, and you know, you can do the embroidery yourself or pay a little bit extra to get somebody to do the embroidery for you, you can have a really cool looking bag and then be able to charge a little bit more for it. So anyway, that's where we're headed with future patterns. I want to be able to customize them myself so that I don't have to get somebody to print them myself. If cut and sews come out, great, awesome, I will buy them because they're cool. But we'll see what happens in the future. Alright, that was enough rambling. If you like this video, you can give it a thumbs up, or if you want to subscribe so that you don't miss any of the new patterns that are coming out. There is going to be one released at the end of this month. Things kind of double up, and I've had people like literally knocking down my door for cut and sews. So there's going to be quite a bit of put out in cut and sews, patterns, etc. in the near future, and then hopefully we'll slow up right before Christmas because, whew. Anyway, make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss any of those, or if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section down below. Also, don't forget, there is a Faithwerks Designs show-off group. So if you make a bag, I want to see it. I would love to see how you personalize this. I love when you guys post pictures of what you've made, and that way I can kind of see, you know, my patterns being used and loved and out into the wild. Anyway, I love to see them. So please make sure that you join on there. Or if you want to support the channel a little bit more, you guys know times have been hard. I do have some merch. I'm adding to it every couple of months. It just depends on how many cut and sews I have to do. But I have added quite a few shirts on there. Please go check them out. Every purchase of a t-shirt, sweater, pattern, view on YouTube, all of that really helps the channel out, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you guys for joining us again on Faithwerks Designs. Bye guys.